Welcome to our weekly program, The Inside Story of Chabad in America through the Mindel Archives. Many people call me, they email to me that they're pleased to hear a lot of new things from the archives, and many of them had a letter from the Rebbe, and they lost the letter, or their parents lost the letter, or their grandparents lost the letter. And since Rabbi Mindel took dictation of Igros Kodesh, most of Igros Kodesh and English letters, so they ask me if I have a copy, and sometimes I find it, and I'm pleased to give it to them. So Baruch Hashem for that. I get calls last few weeks from some people. You know, they watch about the programs, the Freike Rebbe, the Rebbe, but they want to know, when the Rebbe and the Rebbetzin came to America, what happened? How were they established? Where did they live? What did the Rebbe do for Parnosa? Now, the truth of the matter is, many is already written, it's already printed, but I found a letter that Rabbi Mindel in 1944 wrote to the Freike Rebbe about setting up Mekes L'Inyan Chinuch. And I will share this in a few minutes. But before that, I want to say that when the Rebbe arrived in America with the Rebbe's in Chof Ches Sivon, the Freike Rebbe asked Rabbi Shmuel Levitin or Rabbi Jacobson, or Vasholem, I'm not sure, that they should go and be Mekabel Ponim and greet his son-in-law, the Ramash, who is clear in the entire Talmud Bavli, in the entire Talmud Yerushalmi, with all the Meforshim, Daran, and Kabbalah. Because no one really knew the Rebbe. The Rebbe's Hatznal Leches was very modest, a big onav, and nobody knew the Rebbe. But when the Freike Rebbe told them who the Rebbe was, they looked at the Rebbe with a different. Agon, the Rebbe was Agon. I mean, they saw what the Freike Rebbe told them, that they should be Mekabel Ponim, his son-in-law, who is chlor in everything. So, when they came to 770, first thing they came, Chof Ches Sivon, the Freike Rebbe lived on the second floor with his mother. Stanish Sora was still alive. She passed away in Tovshin Beis, 1942. And the Manya was there. We spoke about Manya. We spoke about the Freike Rebbe, the connection to Manya. On the third floor, Rashag was the Freike Rebbe's oldest son-in-law, lived on the third floor. So they came to 770 and they gave the Rebbe a room, his Yechidus room. Everybody knows where the Rebbe's Yechidus room was. That room was his bedroom then. Meaning that at night there was a bedroom, in the daytime this room was an office. So the Rebbetzin Chaim Mushkia used to spend all day upstairs together with Manya. That's why she got close to Manya, to Manya, and she was she was the nurse of Rebbetzin Shtanesore, Freike Rebbe's mother, and she was also close to Chana, to the Rashag's wife, and so she spent upstairs, and the daytime it was an office. Now also in those years, the Freike Rebbe, I don't know how many Wednesdays, but it was a while that every Wednesday the Freike Rebbe said a maimer in a microphone in that Yechidus room of the Rebbe downstairs. Now the Rebbe worked in the Navy Yard. He had to make a parnosa. So he went to the Navy Yard, and this was his parnosa. In the weekends, or after work many times, he went to Manhattan. There was a Dr. Alexander, I think he was on West End Avenue. He was a big doctor, a lung doctor. And he had his office in his house, and his wife, Feige, was the nurse. So when the refugees came from Europe People were broken, zu brochen, they were sick, and they came to cure them to the doctor. So the Rebbe was in that office. I don't know how the Rebbe got to the office. And the Rebbe Poshet helped the people. He spoke to them, he helped them begashmis, he helped them beruchnis by this doctor. Now there was one person, I'm not mentioning his name, when the Rebbe became a Rebbe in 51, the Rebbe sent him to this Dr. Alexander. So he came to this doctor and he said to the doctor, I'm sent by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. So they asked him, the doctor asked him, his wife, who is the Lubavitcher Rebbe? So they explained to him, he said, that's the rabbi that came to us, such a wonderful person, how he helped people begashmis uberuchnis. This is something that is in the archive that I wanted to mention. Also another thing, which is very interesting, we put on tefillin, we put on Rashi's tefillin and Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. And we put it on, we take off the Rashi's tefillin after davening. Rosh Chodesh, we take off the Rashi's tefillin before Musaf, and we change to Rabbeinu Tam's tefillin. That's before Musaf. The Rebbe, when he came to America, the first time Shacharis, he davened in 770, and the Rebbe put on 4 pair of tefillin. Rashi, Rabbeinu Tam's, Rabbi, Shibush Rabbe. And the Rebbe was so careful. I mean, he did his anivas. He didn't want people should see that he puts on 4 pair of tefillin. So like he was hiding in a corner and he put it on that people should not see. Why? The Frierdiker Rebbe told the Rebbe to put on 4 pair of tefillin, and only a guf noki, a clean body, puts on 4 pair of tefillin. A guf nagi, not begashmis, beruchnis. So this was the Rebbe, but the Rebbe didn't want people should see, but people saw anyways. Also, every week, an hour before Kabbalah Shabbos and an hour after Havdalah, the Rebbe went to the Frierdiker Rebbe almost every week. And Bichlal, he wrote the Hatzla Lechas of the Rebbe. He went to the Mikveh many times. Now let's go back to Merkez, how the Rebbe established Merkez, how Merkez was established. So, as we said, at night was a bedroom, in the daytime it was an office. Who worked in the office? Excuse me. Rabbi Mindel. Rabbi Mindel worked together with the Rebbe. Number 1, the Tanya. He translated the Tanya. The Frierdiker Rebbe told him, as we once mentioned, that the Tanya is in Hebrew and Hasidus is a closed book because most of the Yidden in the world don't know Hebrew. So the Frierdiker Rebbe asked them to translate the Tanya into English. And the Rebbe and Rabbi Mindel never, never learned in Tomchit Mimim, the same as Rabbi Chadakov. They were involved in the yeshiva under the shita of Rabbi Shamshon of Foil Hirsch, yeshiva Toirem Derech Eretz. So how did he know Tanya? To translate the Tanya. So the Frierdiker Rebbe told the Rebbe to write, to ask, to be with him, and to give him manuscripts. And that's how Rabbi Mindel learned the Tanya. So she'll be able to say he worked together with the Rebbe in the Tanya. This is very, very. And where did they work? In the Yechidas room. That was, I don't know, Merkez. That was, I guess, that was in that room. I mentioned once when the first Tanya came out, there was a Sputnik. The Sputnik then was in the early 60s, late 50s. And Rabbi Mindel gave the Rebbe the first Tanya. So the Rebbe said, "Was macht man a Tumul von the Sputnik? Wir darf machen a Tumul von the first Tanya came out. You make a big fuss of the Sputnik. The first Tanya came out. There was a big thing. So they worked in that room. Also, the memoirs, the Rebbe's Haggos, also in that work. The Shulchan Aruch. Those days, the Shulchan Aruch, the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch was difficult. Even the Kitzur. People were, the Amaratzis was very big. So the Rebbe made, together with Rabbi Mindel, in English, a Kitzur and the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. And I think I printed it. And I think we need more copies. A Kitzur, the Haggos of the Rebbe there, Ge'onis, that was done in that room. The Shmuz and Talks and Tales which is by the Rebbe and the Frierdiker Rebbe. This was heilig like a maimer. The Frierdiker Rebbe said, and I think I mentioned it, that when he reads the wonder of nature, the Wunder von Natur, kumtem zu Yerushalayim, he gets Yerushalayim. That's how important and holy the Talks and Tales was written by Rabbi Mindel. Where? In the Yechidus room. The Miyoim L'Yoim that we gave out for children, Hayoim Yoim, Miyoim L'Yoim, the difference between Hayoim Yoim and the encyclopedia for children is because Hayoim Yoim is a collection of the Rebbe collected from the Frierdiker Rebbe's saying, and the Rebbe put it every day in a different saying. But Miyoim L'Yoim, that the Rebbe put himself, his own, whatever belongs in that day. Also, the letters was written, and the commandments was one of the first that gave Pashat Amunah, the Eibishter, Rabbi Mindel wrote. Everything was written in that day, in that room. Now, while Rabbi Mindel was working on that, Rabbi Chadakov had to distribute. That was his job. He worked at Talks and Tales, but it had to be sent out. So he had to find people to send out the Talks and Tales and to other things. So this was his job. I mean, Rabbi, all the Baskirim later on that came were not there then. Now, while Lubavitch was growing, the Frierdiker Rebbe and the Rebbe asked Rabbi Mindel to work all day in Merkez. Rabbi Mindel worked a few hours in Tibchet Mimi for Rashag. Rashag needed him to work for him. So, but how can you work? I mean, you can't work. I mean, you need a secretary, you need a typewriter, you need all these things, and they didn't have. So Rabbi Mindel wrote a letter to the Frierdiker Rebbe, and I'm going to read you a short letter. I'm going to read the letter to the Frierdiker Rebbe. And this was written in 1944, written in Hebrew, and we translate this in English. This was written Mitzvah Shabbos Parsha Shoftim 1944. Kvei Kedushes Admur Shlita, the Frierdiker Rebbe. Greeting and blessing. The Rebbe is surely aware, means the Frierdiker Rebbe, of the technical challenges we are facing working in Merkez, an organization which Baruch Hashem has spread and grown, and especially as the operation has remained the same as when Merkez was first established. That has caused setback and losses. In brief, the basic things that are lacking, he wrote what are lacking that he needs to work. There is no orderly office. There's no office. There is no suitable secretary. You need a secretary to answer phones, to type. There are no sufficient hands to assist in the publication of material. And this results in delays, literally until minutes before Shabbos, at which point there is no time for distribution. Because you need people. There are no warehouse for the printing material, which is now lying in piles all over the office, all over, it was in the hall there, and also in the room, the Merkez room was an empty room. There is no administrator in charge and no fundraiser. We already discussed the above matters with the Rebbe's son-in-law, the Ramash Shlita, who is familiar with the nature of the situation. Understandably, there are great hurdles, among them financially, which stand in the way of bettering the situation. Excuse me. In my opinion, there is much that can be done to improve the situation, and we should certainly make the effort to improve it and fill the gap. And although it would initially entail expenses, experience has proven that these expenses would not have been spent in vain, but rather every penny will be returned double and triple fold. I believe I would be able to correct much of this lack enumerated above, given the necessary resources, and I therefore suggest the following. I am prepared to accept a position in Merkez of 30 hours a week, in addition to my work in Tibchet Mimim. That's all he can give then, but then he worked almost 24 hours. We will rent a room near 770, an office. The cost of this would be approximately $10 a week, and will include a telephone, setting up the office will not be more than $100. Hire a secretary whose responsibility would be, number one, assist me in my literary work, like typing, and B, will reply to correspondence. The cost of this will be $35 a week. Until we find a fundraiser, I would undertake this task in the interim, of course, with the participation of the Ramash and Rabbi Chadakov, since no action can be done without their approval. The suggestion and conditions mentioned above are connected one to another, and then he signs his name he wrote to Frierdiker Rebbe. So here he wrote, this is how Merka started in that room, and then later on, as we know, that room had Rabbi Chadakov was in the room, and Rabbi Mindel was in the room, and Rabbi Rothstein, I think, was in the room. Later, years later, there was Rabbi Krinsky, there was Rabbi Groner. They already came later to help out Rabbi Mindel and help out Rabbi Chadakov. And this is how it started. So this is an answer to the people that want to know something, at least how it went in when the Rebbe came to America, how they set up Merkas. In Mitzvah Hashem, next week we'll continue our weekly program. Thank you.